Joining us right now on the Boardwalk Honda hotline, hailing from down in Memphis, Fox 13 in Memphis. He covers the NBA as a whole as well. Jonathan Marshall joins us right now as all guests appear on the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Jonathan, how you doing today?
Pretty good, Josh. How's it going, man?
Not too bad. Before we get into the NBA, I gotta ask you, man. You in Memphis are in the epicenter of a bizarro world when it comes to basketball, because the whole fiasco with Tubby Smith for 18 months at the University of Memphis, now Penny Hardaway is there. You got the situation in Memphis also with the NBA team. Fizdale gets pushed out. You go through a couple different coaches over there. Then they get the draft pick Jackson. Marcus Gasol gets elbowed in the neck last night. Who knows how long he's going to be out, because we don't know whatever's going on with that guy's head. So how strange has the last 18 months been in Memphis in terms of the college and NBA basketball teams?
Man, it's been wild. Memphis, I mean, make no mistake, is a basketball city. You got the Tigers on the college level, and of course the Grizzlies, and people have been used to the grit and grind era, and that's been over since the Zebo and Tony Allen have departed. They're sort of trying to find their way back, and then the Tigers, they've fallen on hard times over recent times. They've gone through Josh Pastner and Tubby Smith. So, both, it's funny how both things with Fizdale and Tubby Smith, and those things are sort of aligned up at the same time. But things seem to be at peace when it comes to the Grizzlies. They have J.B. Bickerstaff and, leading that charge, and pretty much it's a rebuilding time. They're still trying to compete. You still have Marcus Gasol and Mike Conley there, but this team, the expectations are low. They are 2-2. They just took a loss to Sacramento yesterday. This is after beating Utah. So I think throughout the year you're going to see a team that's going to compete hard, but at the end of the day, there's a major talent shortage. But Jaren Jackson Jr. is a rookie that they're leaning on, that they're hoping is one day going to be a guy that can lead them into that next generation. But the main excitement, of course, is with the Tigers, with Penny Hardaway. I've been around, a couple of their practices, and the Memphis Madness event a couple weeks ago was packed. A lot of people told me that they haven't seen the FedEx Forum that packed since the Grizzlies' heyday. And that just shows you how much excitement it is. Penny used to play for Memphis. He's Memphis' favorite basketball son. He grew up here. He played high school ball here, played his college ball in Memphis. So, and that's all they talk about on the radio here is Penny this, Penny that, and the recruitment. So, Tigers basketball is number one. I think they will sell out most games at the FedEx Forum, while the Grizzlies, it will be a struggle. But it is an interesting time, exciting time for basketball here in Memphis.
Well, selling out is a good thing for the University of Memphis, because they're renting that facility, from what I understand, from the Grizzlies. So that'll help in the rent payments, right?
Oh yeah. They won't have any issues with that. The tickets have already been sold out, according to reports. So it's going to be an exciting year for Tigers basketball. The Grizzlies may get a little jealous.
All right, well, we'll bring it back to the Northeast now. I had to ask you about the Memphis situation, because I've been watching it from a distance. I'm like, this is insane. Like, what is going on down there? So
it's crazy, man. Mm-hmm.
I was talking earlier in the last hour about the 76ers, and to me, I have a huge takeaway from the last two games. And look, Giannis Antetokounmpo had an incredible game last night. Blake Griffin, 50 points. I mean, it was bizarre how well he played on Tuesday night. The thing that stands out to me is, while the 76ers are a very good basketball team, I mean, Embiid, Simmons, generational talents, I just don't think beyond those two guys, I don't know if they have enough firepower. And to me, they got to do one of two things, Jonathan. They either need to play better defense, or they need to go out and get a legitimate third scorer.
You're right, Josh. And I was talking to one of my friends who's a huge Sixers fan, and we watch all these games. We've watched closely over the last few years, especially. And the biggest thing is, this team is easy to game plan against, right? You sag off Ben. Not only can he not shoot, he won't shoot. So that's easy to defend. And you run Covington and Redick off the three-point line. They're lost beyond 3 dribbles. They don't know what to do with the ball. And Joel, he's putting up major numbers, but it seems to be hollow because these guys aren't winning games. So he can drop 30. He can put up these amazing lines, but what impact is it making at the end of the day? So I think these guys are missing that dynamic wing scorer, a guy who can create, who can put the ball on the floor, who can score on all three levels, and they're missing that. I know Markelle Fultz was supposed to be that guy, but we all know what's going on with that situation. Who knows how he's going to develop? So right now they're missing that dynamic wing guy, even defensively, a guy who can pretty much a two-way stud. A guy like Jimmy Butler would be great. I think that a guy of that ilk would be the perfect remedy. But outside of that, they don't have that third guy, a guy who can take over offensively and really put some pressure on that defense, because you're relying on a point guard in Ben Simmons who really, outside of his amazing playmaking abilities, he's not a major threat scoring the ball, shooting the ball, and that's what they're missing, that third guy, as you just mentioned.
See, you bring up Butler, and here's my beef with Jimmy Butler, and it's not really a beef as much as why I would never trade for him. I don't think Butler really knows what he wants to do with his future. And I'm not going to give up a bunch of assets to get a guy who's probably going to leave in free agency, because if you go by the reports, 1 minute it's LA, 1 minute it's New York, 1 minute he wants to team up with Kyrie, another minute Miami sounds interesting. He just seems like a dude who really doesn't really know what he wants. And I don't really know if I want a guy who doesn't know what he wants on a team full of guys who, let's be realistic, they were all top draft picks, and a guy in Jimmy Butler who grinded his way to be a top-tier player. Yeah,
Jimmy would be a risk. And, I feel like Jimmy has to understand, he has to be real with himself, to be honest, that he's not a number one guy. To me, he's not a franchise guy, but he's a perfect, piece to include in a trio like Ben and like Joel. So he would be a major risk. But if I'm Philly at this point, I got to look at the situation, look at the roster, and depending on who they're asking for, I may have to take that risk, because right now I'm looking at the Eastern Conference and Boston, Toronto, Milwaukee, Indiana. It's still early in the season, I know this, but based off what I've seen, Philly's behind those teams right now.
Well, here's a name for you, and this was brought up on the text board. I thought it was a great point by one of the listeners. How about a Kemba Walker?
Mm-hmm. Kemba will be great. Kemba will be great, but then you run into the problem of, what do you do with Ben Simmons, right? I mean, he's most effective with the ball in his hands, right? So, and Kemba's a point guard as well. So how would those two guys?
Here's my answer with that. So in the playoff game that TJ played, he forced Ben to play more off ball than Ben is used to, and they won that game. And Ben was still effective at being Ben and getting close to that triple-double range. To me, I think if you have a second ball handler, like you see teams around the NBA, you see Houston doing it with Harden and Paul, you see the Warriors doing it with Steph Curry and anybody else on that team, it's okay to have a secondary ball handler, because in today's game, you kind of need to not have too much focus be on one guy.
Right. You make a great point. I mean, Kemba, I think, answers the call. As you said, second ball handler. So much pressure is on Ben to handle the ball, initiate the offense, and to create. Kemba would definitely alleviate some of that pressure. And then also what we just mentioned, a third scorer, a guy who can really light up the scoreboard. And Kemba definitely answers the call. So, I mean, Kemba would be a great name. A name I've thought about before, a guy like a C.J. McCollum. Sort of a guy of that mold, a guy who can break down a defender, a guy that can shoot, a guy that can definitely light it up. So just having that wing, that dynamic wing or perimeter presence is glaring. That's a glaring weakness on this team for sure.
Jonathan Marshall joins us on the Boardwalk on the hotline here on 97.3 ESPN. You can follow him on Twitter at jmarshallfox13. That's jmarshallfox13 on Twitter. Brett Brown. I got to hear it from somebody else, because I feel like everybody's got a theory, an opinion, a perspective, a belief, whatever on Brett Brown, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. Everyone's got a theory or a belief on this guy. So what is your perspective on Brett Brown?
I'm over the Brett Brown era, Josh. I feel like it's run its course. There are many frustrating moments where, the rotation is number one. That's I don't know what he's doing on a nightly basis with his rotations. Markelle's playing great one night, and you decide to sit him late in the game. Moments like this, too many times these things happen. Just when I'm scratching my head, it's like, Brett, what are you doing? And they're winning. I said that they're winning in spite of Brett Brown, not because of Brett Brown. There's never been a win where I say our coach got us that W. Brett Brown out-coached this guy. There's never been a time where I said that, where I said Brett really did a great job with his management, his rotations. It's never happened to me. So I'm trying to understand at what point are we going to say, okay, enough is enough. This has run its course. It's been a few years now. He was with us throughout the process, and we applaud him for sticking with it, and he's developed a couple players. But at the end of the day, when you want to reach that championship level, is Brett Brown that guy? And to me, he's not. When comparing him to other coaches like a Brad Stevens, or not even a Brad Stevens, coaches, Quinn Snyder, in Utah, those are guys where I can say I can see their imprint on that team. Here in Philly, I don't even know what their game plan is, what their style is. To me, it's just freewheeling, and let's see what Joel and Ben can do. And too many times, it just looks a mess, and that's a byproduct of the coaching.
Is part of the problem for Brett also the coaches on his bench? Because I feel like, when you have a great coaching staff, it makes the head coach better. Look at down in San Antonio. You got a guy in Popovich, all those assistants get in his ear. But Popovich doesn't need to listen to anybody. He's Pop, but he does. And that's part of what makes him Pop. You look at a guy like Phil Jackson, you always lean on a guy like Tex, right? So you look around basketball, the great coaches have assistants they can lean in. Is part of Brett's problem the fact that he doesn't have a guy on that bench who's legitimately questioning him?
Yeah. He probably has a bunch of yes men, people that are just appeasing him, and it looks like it, because any competent coach that's seeing what's going on is not gonna allow that. So I know he lost an assistant to Atlanta, Lloyd, Pierce, who's that coach in Atlanta now. So for me, he was a defensive guy for him, and now he's gone defensively. They've left a lot to be desired this year so far. So that is something that needs to be looked at for sure. But I look at Brett number one first and foremost, and he's a San Antonio guy. We know about those San Antonio guys under the Pop tree. There's a lot of hype and thinking that they can succeed on their own, but he's one guy who I think you got to question for sure under that Pop tree.
Let's look at the Eastern Conference as a whole here. I think most people agree that the big three is the Celtics, the Raptors, and the Sixers. I think most people agree on that point. So for a team like the Sixers, you look at the rest of the Eastern Conference. You saw the loss to the Bucks last night. You see the loss to the Pistons. How much of a gap is there between the Sixers and the top two? Because to me, what makes the Celtics great? It's coaching and it's depth. What's making Toronto great right now? Well, it's Kawhi playing out of his mind. So, for the Sixers, what is the real gap between them and the rest of the conference's big elites?
Between Boston and Philly, there's a major gap. Let's not even talk about that. Toronto has Kawhi, as you mentioned. So I think between Boston and Toronto, those are the top two teams, and I think Philly is competing with Milwaukee and Indiana for sort of that third tier. And we saw last night's game with Milwaukee. Milwaukee has everything, to combat against what Philly offers and what Philly doesn't have, and that's multiple dynamic wing scorers and shooters. And I look at Milwaukee, you got Giannis, you got Chris Middleton, Eric Bledsoe. You got guys who can really put that ball on the floor and put pressure on that defense. And, and they seem to have a good game plan against Philly last night. And if I were to say a 7-game series between Milwaukee and Philly, that'd be a tough one for me to pick, to be honest with you. And Giannis would be the determining factor for me, but the players who are around Giannis, they offer much more than what Philly is being offered outside of Joel and Ben Simmons. So I would be hard pressed to pick against Milwaukee in a 7-game series based off what I've seen early on. After that, you got your Phillies, your Indianas, Miami, Washington, what have you. I would say Philly is strong number 4 right now, early on, but I still would give the edge to Milwaukee over them right now, slightly.
Well, like you said, it's early on, so
yeah, it's still early. It's very early. A lot to be watched.
By the way, so I have a theory real quick. I want to run this by you. I think the NBA season starts too early. I think the NBA season needs to start like late November. I think this whole October thing is garbage. I think you're taking away from my football time here.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, but it used to start late, I believe, right? Sort of like October 29th, 30th time. It
Right. It
used
used
to
to start
start
like
late
around
October from what
Halloween.
I
Like
remember.
ESPN
Exactly.
used to have that Halloween triple header.
Right. So I don't know what that, because I remember preseason used to be a little longer. But yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to November, because really, who's really in full time go hoops mode? You still got the baseball's going on, football is right in the middle of the season, so it's a lot going on, but it's a good problem to have, though, Josh.
I'm not saying it's a bad problem. I'm just saying that it's interfering with my watching schedule here. That's all. I got
Hey, you
shows
can't have
building
it
up on my
all, man.
DVR here. I mean, come on.
You can't have it all, man. You can't have it all.
This is true. Jonathan Marshall joining us on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. I mentioned Kawhi earlier. I feel like what I've seen from Kawhi so far is a guy who's trying to prove a point. A guy who's trying to say, look, you all make fun of my laugh. You all make fun of the fact that I'm a little socially awkward. Everyone thinks I can't do this. Everybody thinks I'm a has-been. I'm going to come out here and prove everybody that I'm still one of the best players in this league, and I'm worth every cent of a max contract.
Yeah, I mean, I love what I'm seeing from Kawhi. And the thing with him, right, and that's the thing with a lot of those San Antonio guys, they feel like, it's a product of the San Antonio system. But you're not a defensive player of the year, all defensive team. You're not a finals MVP. And you're not all these things without being a great individual talent. And I think Kawhi has proven himself. Even in San Antonio, I knew outside of that quote unquote San Antonio system, I felt like this guy he's a very great basketball player. Offensively, he's grown throughout the years. And for him to be able to spot up and break his man down off the dribble and pull up, I mean, I haven't seen any weaknesses with this guy so far this year, man. And to see his growth over the years, and I think he is proving a point. Like, look, with or without San Antonio's system, I'm a player. And early on, he's showing it. And I know Toronto fans are enjoying the ride right now. I know they're hoping that he stays. That would be great for that fan base. But Toronto fans, just enjoy this ride for what it is right now. I'm not sure what he's going to do, but enjoy it. But Kawhi early on is definitely in that MVP race.
My preseason MVP, and I'll totally confess to this, was Anthony Davis. And it wasn't a diss on anybody else. But to me, I think right now Anthony Davis is entering that prime of his career where we always talk about LeBron and Kevin Durant and Kawhi. But I think Anthony Davis in a couple of years could supplant all those guys. I think he's got that kind of ceiling. And to me, I think he should have been the MVP last year. I think James Harden won the MVP with a sham because that dude was on a great team with a great coach and a great system. Anthony Davis, when Boogie Cousins went down, had almost better numbers than James Harden down the stretch. So to me, Anthony Davis, you let that guy be healthy or at least get me 75 games, I think the sky's the limit for that dude.
Oh, AD is doing big numbers, and I can say that he was my first pick in my fantasy draft, so I'm a little biased right
Smart
now.
man.
AD is AD. I mean, look, AD is a superstar in this league, 6'10", and everything that he does out there on the basketball court. The thing with him is playoff time, getting it done. That's what we want to see when it comes down to it in the playoffs. Can you lead your team in the playoffs? Right now, the Pelicans are undefeated. I'm still not sure if I'm going to be sold on that team just yet because you have so many teams in the Western Conference. That's just that's just a tough conference right now.
Come on, you're not sold on Alfred Payton cutting his hair?
I'm not sold on Alfred Payton. Sorry. Look, the thing with them, they have talented guys, but these are guys that are inconsistent, right? One night, Drew Holiday will drop 20, the next will drop 10. So I don't know how, Nikolai Mirotic will drop 30 one night, the next he's non-existent. So they have guys who can, on any night, give you 20 and great performances, but the next night, where are they? So my only question with AD and the Pels, come playoff time, what are you going to do? They had a great run last year, what they did with Portland in the first round. Of course, they ran into the Warriors, the championship, team Warriors. But this year, I want to see AD advance deeper into the playoffs. If he does that, then I can say, okay, he's reached that next level. If he wants to be an MVP, that's what he has to do. For the record, my preseason MVP pick was Giannis. How you feel about AD? I feel like in a few years, Giannis is going to be the best player. What that guy does is amazing. He's just different. And if he starts hitting a jump shot consistently, yeah, watch out. So Giannis is that guy for me who I say in the next few years, KD and LeBron and Kawhi tail off. Giannis. I think Giannis and AD are going to be battling for that top spot.
Hey, look, man, you want to start a team and take Giannis? I'll start a team and take AD. We can do this NBA 2K style and do a 10-year projection and see what happens.
I think we're both in good hands, though. I can tell you that. I think we're both going to be okay.
Yeah, exactly. Jonathan Marshall has joined us here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline on 97.3 ESPN here on Middays with Q. Jonathan, appreciate your time on a Thursday, and I know that you and Q will be chatting throughout the season about the NBA, but I appreciate your time here on a Thursday.
Yes, sir. And tell Q the Knicks, it's over. It's over. It's over.
Come on, man. Porzingis hasn't even played yet.
Man, Porzingis can't save you. Sorry. Nah, it's all good.
It's all good. I'll catch you later, man.
Yes, sir.